Okay, I'm gonna catch you guys up. I started my chicks a little late this year, and it was a really interesting process. So I'm gonna cover a lot of territory. This little girl, hopefully it's a girl, it just came out. She just hatched. And though she looks black right now, she is actually probably going to be Easter egger mix with an Australian Australope. I hope I pronounced that properly. I like the Australian Australopes because they're big chickens and they have an amazing history of laying the most eggs. So I used my rooster, my Australope rooster, who's jet black and beautiful, to mate with different types of hens, like another really prolific egg layer, the California white leghorn. And I got these Easter eggers and olive eggers from my neighbor, so it's going to be a really fun mix. So this is I have two of these. They're the most inexpensive incubator, and they hold about 10 to 12 eggs. The problem is you want to test it right away when you get it, because my first one stopped rotating, and it's really important because what you're trying to do is mimic nature, which is not an easy thing, even with a machine. The chickens have to have humidity, so that means you have to make sure this water bottle is in the box. It's filled with water, connected onto this, which slowly feeds a good supply of moisture into the bottom, which gives the humidity, because we're trying to replicate the mother hen sitting on those eggs with a constant temperature and humidity for 21 days. 21 days. So it's also important that you mark your calendar the day that you get them in. This is also one of the components that go inside of this, and it's supposed to turn every 4 hours to rotate the eggs, but you really want to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's properly doing that. The first machine I bought, when I put 12 or more eggs in it, they were too heavy and it wouldn't properly rotate. But this machine I got from Temu and it worked great. Why did I take this out of here? Well, that's another important detail. So get a pen and paper at this point, because there's going to be a big list if you plan to do this. Once the eggs start to hatch, you have to either have another incubator to put them in, or you have to remove this, because if the baby chicks are in there and this continues to rotate, it could break their legs. And that's horrifying. I simply just remove mine, and then after they start hatching, the ones that are later, I just kind of hand move around every day. I hand turn them. What else do we need to know? So it's important to mark your calendar. It's important to have an energy backup source, because if you're serious about incubating your own chicks and the power goes out, it's just not going to work. So make sure you're prepared for that you have a generator or a battery or something, because it will kill them. They have to have a constant temperature of between 98 and 99 degrees. So you mark your calendar the day you put them in. Here's another interesting thing that I learned this year. Because I fertilized my own eggs, I keep my roosters separated from my hens, because the roosters are so violent and they brutalize the hens. So they're separated, and so they can brutalize each other. And then the day that I want to breed, I simply let the roosters go over with the hens and give them about 24 hours of mating. And then I put the roosters back in their own pen again. But here's an interesting detail. You have to wait three or 4 days for those the roosters' sperm to reach the fertilized eggs in the hens. So it's another thing you need to work on your calendar, because if you go and collect the eggs even a day after you've done your breeding session, the chances are the eggs are not going to be fertilized. So to play it safe, I would give it 4 or 5 days to before you collect the eggs, to put in the incubator, so that you have a better chance that they were indeed fertilized. Even that being said, you're going to have you're going to have eggs that won't be fertilized. I had so far 3 or 4 that I could tell by looking with the flashlight. I use this little flashlight, which is very intense, in the closet, and you can see if there's something forming inside the egg or if it's just mush. And the mushy ones are just going to be rotten eggs. You want to throw them away right away so they don't take up room and potentially add bacteria to your outfit. Another thing that you want to be mindful of is that when the chicks start to hatch, this is why I liked having 2 incubators, and the other incubator I've already disinfected downstairs. When they hatch, there's all kinds of goo that comes out, and the goo will go down in the tray, and of course there's moisture down there from this, so that's going to get really nasty really fast. So after a couple chicks have hatched, it's good after about 24 hours when they're really dry to migrate them to your brooding place, the place you're going to keep them warm and fed and to clean this out. So I migrated the eggs that weren't hatched from the second incubator into this incubator, and that other incubator has been fully sterilized. I'll bring that one back up and then do the same thing with this after several or more chicks have hatched to make sure that I'm not getting a big stinky bacterial swamp being created in the reservoir of this incubator. Okay, I hope that made sense. So that's the thing. A lot of people think, oh, you just buy an incubator, you throw some eggs in it. It is not easy to imitate nature. Nature, intelligent design is intelligent. And it takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of follow through, and a lot of discipline. It's not this thing you can do half-assed. Because if you just like with kids, if you decide to bring life onto this planet, you have a responsibility to give that being a good life, be it a plant or a tree or a little baby chicken. Now for the exciting part. So I'm lucky enough to have an extra bathroom. And I found that an extra shower makes an excellent brooding chamber because you can control the temperature and the humidity, and it's very easy to clean. And this is who we got going so far in here. Hey, babies. Now you're going to want to buy the special chick water that has electrolytes and stuff in it. We're already drinking water from here. And you're going to change that water a couple times a day just to make sure they don't get sick. And then I use medicated chick food, but I noticed the chick food I bought, I had to grind it down a little bit in my blender because it was too big for these guys. But look at some of the beautiful mixes. Now these gals are 1 and 2 days old, and we have 10 of them and number 11 in the other room, but they're looking really good right now, really healthy. Another thing I learned is I helped one of these out of the egg. I helped one out of the egg, and I should have read before I decided to do that, because indeed you're really not supposed to do that. And I was afraid that it was too weak, but I was just being impatient and anthropomorphizing the process. When you do that, if you feel like you really need to help a chick out of an egg, there's a couple things you have to take into consideration. Perhaps a chick is genetically weak and was meant to die. Number 2, if you see any signs of blood when you're removing the shell or the membrane, that is a clear sign that the chick has not absorbed enough of the nutrients from the egg and is not ready to come out yet. And that's what I encountered, and I was terrified that I hurt or killed the chick, but it is fine. It is fine and healthy, and it is one of these beautiful little hopefully ladies. Now, here's another thing to take into consideration. When you're brooding your own eggs, just like when you grow marijuana, 45 to 50% of your eggs are going to be male. Now, I tried to get around that this time, and I'll let you know what happened in a future video by using this technique that a lot of chicken people online claim is somewhat reliable, and that is that you only choose the round eggs to fertilize. Only the round eggs to fertilize. But the problem was that a lot of the eggs, they weren't super pronounced round or pointy at the tip. But supposedly when the eggs are more really cone-shaped, really pointy towards the less wide end of the egg, that's a rooster. So I was as careful as I could be at choosing eggs that were rounded and not obviously pointed at the tip. But I found this process a little bit unreliable because, like I said, some of the eggs aren't exactly perfectly round or pointed. They're kind of in the middle. But I did my best, and we'll see this time if that affected how many roosters or how many hens. Now, some people don't care if they get a bunch of roosters if you're not afraid to slaughter your chickens because you just use them for meat at a certain age. And we have eaten a lot of roosters because roosters are loud and they're violent and they eat a lot of food and they don't make eggs. And really you only need a couple if your goal is to become self-sufficient and continue breeding. Right now I have 4 roosters, which is way too many. I've just been tired. I've been busy with spring on the property here, and I wanted to get their genetics, to be honest with you. So we've done National Chicken Breeding Day, and now they're going to become soup. Okay, that covers a lot. This is covering a lot. When the chicks get a little stronger, probably in 2 or 3 days, and these chicks have caught up and I see what exactly is going to hatch and what's not going to hatch, I start introducing flowers and weeds and vegetables from outside, leafy greens. And I will take those and I'll cut them up really finely and lay them around inside the brooding pen. This does several things. It gives them an appetite for leafy greens and vegetables and flowers, because that's one of the ways that I supplement my chicken food. I literally every morning go around the property and pick several giant containers of weeds and grass and feed it to the chickens, and they love it. And this really changes and improves the quality of the egg. It raises the omega-3 fatty acids and beta carotene and gives the chickens a ton of vitamins and minerals naturally. And it keeps them busy, makes them feel like they have a lot more food than just their dry feed. So yes, and it also will help to start to introduce the bacteria from outside to the chicks, to start strengthening their immune system, being that they don't have a mother to do this for them. I'm their mama. It's a simple, natural way to start introducing some of those pathogens from outside through the plants and flowers to the chicks. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to show you the brooder in the shower once again. Again, you don't have to use a shower. You can use a 20-gallon tote, but they do grow quickly. I'll let you know that. The main thing with the chicks, though, you can see the heat lamp here, and I have a thermometer in there. You got to keep it about 100 degrees. So what I like about this setup is I can hang with an extension cord. I can hang my heat lamp with a heat bulb. It actually has a heat bulb in it at a certain height. And if it's too warm for them, they have the option. They can just move around in here. If they're colder, they have the instincts to get closer to it. And, if they're too warm, then you can see they just cluster in the corners together. And I've done this 3 times now, and it's worked really, really well for me. And though they're not pooping a lot now, in just a couple days, they're going to be a shit frenzy. And the great thing is using newspaper and things like paper towels on top of the shower is that you can, just put them in a little box to keep them warm, pull all this out and compost it, and then put all fresh bedding down. And I will do that once a day. And that's why I've never gotten any kind of diseases or issues for my chicks. Another thing that's important that I also put down, I forgot this part, underneath this is the closet lining or the drawer lining. You can buy it in rolls from Walmart or anywhere. And it's the plastic lining that has the little bumps so they can have traction. It's almost like a rubber plastic. And that's underneath this. And that way all the chicken poop and what have you, moisture, isn't staining or permanently damaging my shower floor. And those things are great too, because you just pull out the whole rolls, it's like 3 lengths of drawer lining, and you can disinfect that with some white vinegar or bleach, and then dry them off in the sun and put them right back in here. And again, this has been a super efficient way for me to deal with the small hatch of chicks. Another one of my secret nutritional weapons for my chickens and chicks, and this is going to get a little complicated, but I buy crab meal, which most people use as a fertilizer. But crab meal has a massive amount of natural chitin in it. Chitin. And chitin is amazing for plants, especially plants under stress. And it's also amazing for animals in regards to bone health. So not only is it pure protein, but it has this special element that helps their immune system and helps them to grow really fast and really strong. And I just kind of mix a little bit of this into their chick food, and it's just one of my secrets to having super healthy, super strong chickens. Okay, I'm going to end the video, and I will give you updates as they happen. But it is spring, and we've got new life. New life, new life.